Hey guys, my name is Haley and today I'm going to be filming the coffee book tag, which is a tag that I thought I did a while ago, but apparently I didn't. And I think I just answered the questions in my head so many times from seeing other people do it that I assumed that I already had done it. Yeah, I was tagged by Oshina from Oshina Gotta Read 'Em All, and let's get started with the questions. Question number 1 is Black. Name a series that's tough to get into but has hardcore fans. And for that, I'm gonna go with The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare, or really any of Cassandra Clare's books. Though I do think The Mortal Instruments is a lot harder to get into than her other series. So, like, I'm doing a reread of The Mortal Instruments right now, which is what reminded me of it. I think City of Bones can be really hard to get into, and City of Ashes even though City of Glass is really good from what I remember. But the fact that you have to read like 2 400+ page books to get to the good books is just... It's hard for a lot of people, and I flew through them the first time I read them, but rereading them now I can definitely see why people don't like them. Number 2 is Peppermint Mocha. Name a book that gets more popular in the winter or festive seasons. And I'm not going to go with festive because I feel like those books are talked about all the time in this tag because they're very popular and there's only a couple of them that are like well known. So I'm going to go with a genre that gets more popular in the winter seasons, and I feel like high fantasy is read more in the winter, or at least it is with me, because I feel like spring and summer is more contemporary. But definitely like high fantasy, like adult high fantasy, is more of a winter thing for me, usually, not always. Number 3 is Hot Chocolate. What is your favorite children's book? This book is a little bit more middle grade than children's, but I'm gonna go with A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it probably upwards of 6 or 7 times. And I read it when I was really young. I think I read it first when I was in 6th grade, maybe a little bit younger than that, but I read this book over and over and over, and I reread it a couple years ago and still absolutely loved it. So I'm definitely gonna go with A Wrinkle in Time. But if we're going for like more children's, like early chapter books, I loved the Goosebumps books as a kid, and I'm so mad at myself that a couple years ago I got rid of a bunch of them that I own. I owned like a stack probably this tall of like a quarter to half of all of the original Goosebumps books, but yes, I was a big fan of those. Number 4 is A Double Shot of Espresso. Name a book that kept you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. I picked 2 for this one because they're both very different, and I was kept on the edge of my seat for very different reasons. The first one being The Cursed Child by John Tiffany, Jack Thorne, and J.K. Rowling. As much controversy that surrounds this book, I was one of the people that really, really liked it, and I read it in less than 2 hours on the night that it came out as soon as we got back from the midnight release from the bookstore. So me and my friend sped read it. The second time I read it, I went through and tabbed it, and I just love it, and I would love to see the play someday. But definitely Harry Potter and the Cursed Child kept me on the absolute edge of my seat, and I was just flipping pages frantically in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. So, and the next one that kept me on the edge of my seat, and I did read in one sitting as well, over the course of a couple hours one evening, very unexpectedly, and that was The Devil in Pew Number 7 by Rebecca Nichols Alonso. This, as I've talked about in a couple of more of my more recent videos because I just read it, this is a sort of... it's kind of a testimony of a girl and her family, but it's told in a very, like, novel format. Like, it feels like you're reading a thriller novel, like a fiction thriller novel, even though these are real events that actually happened in her life. And it was just one of the most gripping stories I've read in a really long time. Number 5, Starbucks. Name a book that you see everywhere, and I'm definitely gonna have to go with A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. That book, I don't think, will ever disappear from YouTube or BookTube, and it will never disappear from all over every bookstore I walk into. I just see it all the time. Or really, I see any of Sarah J. Maas's books all the time. Number 6 is That Hipster Coffee Shop. Give an indie author a shout out. And I'm not sure if he's an indie author, but I won this on a Goodreads giveaway like a couple years ago and finally read it last year, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. And I think it might have been self-published, but I'm not sure. But I'm gonna go with it anyway because I don't think it has very many ratings on Goodreads. And that is Aaron by Shandy Lawson. This is a book where there's a virus in a city. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be New York City or if it's stated where it is, but it's like a big city that is being quarantined, I believe, and they have a virus that is basically rabies gone wild. Like there's a 50-foot wall surrounding the city and everybody has to stay in there. It was really fast-paced. I really enjoyed it. It was a different take on a sort of dystopian type thing, and I'm gonna shout it out here, even though I'm not sure if this is considered an indie author. Number 7 is Oops, I Accidentally Got Decaf. Name a book that you expected more from. I don't even own these books anymore because I was really upset with how the series went, and that is the Rotten Ruin series by Jonathan Mayberry. I kind of liked the first one. The second one was probably my favorite of the 4. I hated books 3 and 4. And I hated the way the ending was handled and how everything wrapped up. I thought it was very anticlimactic and that it was just not worth me reading 4 like 400 to 500 page books. And there was even a novella bind up that I didn't end up reading, and yeah, I expected a lot more from that series because I love zombie things and I just really didn't like that series. Number 8 is The Perfect Blend. Name a book or series that was both bitter and sweet but ultimately satisfying. And for that I'm going to go with The Internment Chronicles by Lauren DeStefano. The reason being, I loved this first book. I read it as an ebook, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And I read it in one sitting off my computer. I could not stop reading it. And then I read the second book during a readathon, I believe, last year. And for some reason, I just really hated it. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood for it or what. Or if it just really wasn't a good book. I don't know. And then I read the third book more recently, maybe the end of last year. And I really enjoyed it. And I liked the characters more. And I liked how it wrapped up. So there were definitely some bitter and sweet moments in this, but I did ultimately like the trilogy and I'm definitely going to keep them on my shelf. And that's it. That's all of the questions for the coffee book tag. I'm not going to tag anyone because I literally feel like everyone has done this tag, but if you haven't, I tag you. And thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.